Descent of Fear, the research station. Omega-7 hung in space like a metallic jewel, its rotating sections catching the light from the twin suns of the Zarian system. Deep within its biocontainment levels, the most dangerous specimens in known space were kept for study. But none were more feared than the creature in cell block Omega. Commander Vextal stood before the reinforced viewing portal, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The reptilian officer had seen combat across 17 star systems, but the sight of the Shadow Maw still made his blood run cold. The creature was a nightmare made flesh, standing 4 meters tall, with obsidian black carapace that absorbed light itself. Its 6 limbs ended in claws that could shred starship hulls, and its elongated skull housed a brain that rivaled most sentient species for cunning. Magnificent, isn't it? Dr. Krillith approached on his 6 spindly legs, tablet clutched in one of his many arms. The arachnid scientist was the station's lead xenobiologist, and his compound eyes gleamed with scientific fascination. 300 years of hunting across the death world Mortis Prime have created the perfect killing machine. No prey has ever escaped a Shadow Maw once it catches the scent. Marcus Chon looked up from where he was adjusting a sensor array near the observation deck. The human exchange student was part of the Galactic Military Academy's cultural exchange program, one of only 12 humans currently serving in alien space. At 22 years old, he was lean and athletic, with dark hair and the kind of easy smile that had helped him make friends across species barriers. "How did you even capture it?" Marcus asked, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. The maintenance work was tedious, but he'd volunteered for extra duties to learn more about alien technology. Commander Vishtal's throat sacs inflated with pride. It took an entire battle fleet and enough tranquilizer to sedate a space whale. Even unconscious, it killed 6 handlers before we got it secured. This particular specimen wiped out an entire colony on Kepler 442b before we tracked it down. The Shadow Maw paced its cell with fluid grace, each step calculated and purposeful. Its sensory tendrils tasted the air constantly, cataloging every scent and sound. The creature had been captive for 6 months, yet showed no signs of accepting its imprisonment. If anything, it seemed to be studying them as much as they studied it. Marcus returned to his work, adjusting the final connections on the atmospheric monitoring system. The delicate components required careful handling, and he was concentrating so intently that he didn't notice the sharp edge of a damaged panel until it was too late. A thin line of crimson appeared across his palm as he jerked his hand back. "Damn," he muttered, examining the shallow cut. It wasn't serious, just a scratch really, but it stung. A few drops of blood spotted the deck plating before he could find something to wrap around it. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. The Shadow Maw stopped pacing mid-step, its massive head swiveling toward the observation deck. The creature's nostrils flared wide, and its 6 eyes dilated to perfect black circles. For a moment, predator and humans stared at each other through the transparent aluminum barrier. Then the impossible happened. The galaxy's most feared predator took 3 rapid steps backward, pressing itself against the far wall of its cell. A sound escaped its throat, something between a whimper and a keen of distress. The creature's eyes darted frantically around the enclosure as if seeking an escape route. What in the 7 hells? Commander Vextal breathed, his own eyes widening. In disbelief, Dr. Krillith dropped his tablet, the device clattering across the deck as all 6 of his arms began making rapid calculations on separate data pads. Impossible. Shadow Maws don't retreat from anything. They're apex predators, the evolutionary endpoint of a death world ecosystem. Marcus looked down at his bleeding palm, then back at the cowering creature. Is it sick? I mean, it looks terrified. The Shadow Maw was indeed exhibiting every sign of primal terror. Its breathing had become rapid and shallow, its claws retracted completely, and it was making itself as small as possible against the cell wall. Most disturbing of all, the creature had begun to emit a low subsonic frequency. It registered on the station's sensors as a distress call. "Run a full medical scan," Commander Vextal ordered, his voice tight with concern. "Check for toxins, pathogens, neural parasites, anything that could explain this behavior." The medical scanners revealed nothing. The Shadow Maw was in perfect physical health, showing no signs of illness or injury. Its terror was purely psychological, triggered by something in the environment. Dr. Krillath's compound eyes focused on Marcus with sudden intensity. "Human Chun, step away from the observation window." The scientist commanded. Marcus moved back 20 meters, and immediately the Shadow Maw's distress calls diminished. The creature was still pressed against the wall, but its breathing began to slow. When Marcus stepped forward again, the creature's panic intensified visibly. "Fascinating," Dr. Krillath whispered, his voice filled with scientific wonder and growing concern. "It's reacting to you specifically, Human Shun, or rather to your scent signature." Commander Vextal's throat sacs deflated completely, a sign of extreme unease among his species. "That's impossible. Humans are prey species. Deathworlders, certainly, but still prey. Your people are omnivores with forward-facing eyes and some persistence hunting adaptations, but you're not apex predators." The Shadow Maw suddenly did something that made every being on the observation deck freeze in horror. Still pressed against the wall, the creature slowly rolled onto its side and went completely limp. Its tongue lolled out, its eyes rolled back, and it stopped breathing entirely. To all external appearances, the galaxy's deadliest predator had just died of fright. "Medical emergency in Cell Block Omega." Commander Vextal barked into his communicator. "We need a full xenobiology team down here immediately." Dr. Krillath was frantically taking readings, his 6 arms working with mechanical precision. "Life signs are stable." "It's not actually dead, Commander. It's playing dead. The Shadow Maw is feigning death to avoid confrontation." The implications of that statement hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Playing dead was a behavior exhibited by prey species when faced with a predator too dangerous to fight or flee from. It was an act of absolute submission, a desperate gambit to be overlooked by something higher on the food chain. Marcus stared at his bloody palm, pieces of a terrible puzzle beginning to fall into place. "Commander, what do you know about human evolutionary history? I mean, really know about it?" Vextal's head tilted in the gesture his species used to indicate confusion. "The standard xenobiology texts cover the basics. Your species evolved on a death world called Earth, developed tool use and agriculture, achieved spaceflight. Nothing unusual for a Class 7 death world species." "That's the sanitized version," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made the aliens uncomfortable. "The version we tell other species to avoid causing panic. The real story is different." Dr. Krillath approached cautiously, several of his arms still taking readings. "What do you mean, different?" Marcus looked at the cowering Shadow Maw, then at the gathered scientists and military personnel. Earth wasn't just any death world. It was what xenobiologists call a persistence world, a planet where evolution selected for endurance over speed, intelligence over strength, and psychological warfare over physical dominance. He held up his bleeding hand, and the Shadow Maw's distress calls intensified even through the cell's sound dampening. "Humans aren't just persistence hunters. We're persistence predators. We're the species that ran mammoths to death across ice fields. We hunted by following prey for days or weeks, never stopping, never giving up until our targets collapsed from exhaustion. The observation deck had grown deadly quiet except for the Shadow Maw's continued whimpering. Our sweat contains stress hormones that most other mammals find terrifying. Marcus continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Our scent signature includes markers that trigger fight or flight responses in species we've never even met. We're pack hunters with perfect endurance, strategic thinking, and tool-making abilities. Commander Vextal's scales had begun to shift color, darkening with anxiety. You're saying that human scent triggers predator recognition responses? I'm saying that somewhere in that creature's genetic memory, something remembers what happened when its ancestors met our ancestors, Marcus replied. And whatever that meeting was like, it left an impression that lasted millions of years. The Shadowmaw, still playing dead, somehow managed to scoot further away from the observation window, while maintaining its death-like pose. The sight of a 4-meter-tall apex predator sliding across the floor while pretending to be a corpse would have been comical if it weren't so profoundly disturbing that Dr. Krillath's compound eyes were fixed on his readings, his scientific excitement overriding his instinctive fear. The creature's biochemistry is fascinating. Stress hormones are off the charts, but there's something else. Elevated production of neurotransmitters associated with respect, submission to a superior predator? It recognizes what we are, Marcus said simply. Maybe not consciously, but on a level deeper than thought. We're the thing that other predators fear. The implications rippled through the observation deck like shockwaves. If humans triggered this response in one apex predator, what about others? How many species in the galaxy carry genetic memories of encounters with persistence hunters? How many civilizations had unknowingly welcomed the descendants of something their animal ancestors considered the ultimate threat? Commander Vextal, voice was barely steady as he reached for his communicator. This is Commander Vextal to Station Command. We have a situation that requires immediate consultation with the Galactic Council's Xenobiology Department. Priority Alpha classification. Marcus wrapped his bleeding hand in a maintenance cloth, watching the terrified Shadowmaw maintain its desperate charade of death. For the first time since joining the exchange program, he truly understood why humans were the only species in the galaxy who considered extreme sports recreational activities. They weren't just Deathworlders. They were the thing that Deathworld predators had nightmares about. Asterisk, the evolution of terror, the emergency meeting of Station Omega-7 Senior. Staff convened within 2 hours of the Shadowmaw incident. The conference room's holographic displays showed biological readouts, evolutionary trees, and footage of the still cowering predator. Marcus sat at the far end of the table, his bandaged hand resting on the surface while alien officers kept their distance with newfound wariness. Dr. Krillath had worked frantically to compile data, his 6 arms coordinating multiple research streamed simultaneously. The results painted a picture that challenged everything the galactic community thought they knew about human evolution. The evidence is undeniable, the spider-like scientist announced, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic data. Human biochemistry contains molecular markers that trigger fear responses in over 70% of known predator species. These markers aren't recent evolutionary developments. They're ancient, suggesting millions of years of refinement. Commander Vextal studied the evolutionary timeline with growing unease. Show us the historical analysis. The hologram shifted to display Earth's prehistoric landscape, reconstructed from human databases and xenoarchaeological evidence. The planet appeared as a nightmare realm of massive predators, extreme weather, and environmental challenges that would have killed most sapient species before they developed fire. Earth's early hominids faced predation pressure unlike anything documented on other worlds, Dr. Krillath continued. Saber-toothed cats larger than our modern shuttlecraft, pack hunters with bite forces exceeding starship hull crushers. Most species would have evolved for speed or camouflage. But humans didn't, Marcus interjected quietly. We evolved for something else entirely. The display zoomed in on a group of early humans pursuing a massive woolly mammoth across an ice field. The humans moved with mechanical persistence, never stopping, never tiring, maintaining their pursuit for what the timestamp indicated was over 6 days. Persistence hunting, Dr. Krylov confirmed. Your ancestors developed the ability to maintain pursuit indefinitely. But more than that, they developed psychological weapons, scent markers that induced panic in prey, coordinated tactics that broke predators' nerve, and an absolute refusal to abandon pursuit once it began. Fleet Admiral Zorthik, a crystalline being whose species had achieved spaceflight before humans discovered fire, leaned forward with interest. Are you suggesting that humans were apex predators on their homeworld? No, Marcus replied, and the simplicity of his answer made it more terrifying. We were something worse. We were persistence predators. Apex predators kill for territory or food. We killed for the hunt itself. We followed prey until they died of exhaustion, stress, and terror. The room fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. On the screens, the shadow maw remained pressed against its cell wall, occasionally twitching as if experiencing nightmares. Dr. Krylov activated another display. I've run comparative analysis on other specimens in our facility. The results are concerning. The screen split to show multiple containment cells throughout the station. In each one, predators from across the galaxy exhibited various degrees of distress. Some paced frantically, others had retreated to hiding spots, and a few had adopted submissive postures despite having never seen a human before. Molecular scent analysis confirms that human pheromones are detected throughout the station's atmospheric systems, the scientist reported. Even trace amounts are enough to trigger responses in predator species. Marcus stood up slowly, noticing how several officers instinctively leaned away from him. You want to know the really scary part? This is me being calm and friendly. You haven't seen what human scent markers are like when we're actually hunting. Elaborate, Admiral Zorthik commanded, though his crystalline structure flickered with what his species displayed as nervousness. Marcus looked around the room, meeting alien eyes that quickly looked away. Human persistence hunting wasn't just about following prey until it collapsed. It was psychological warfare refined over millions of years. We developed scent markers that communicate specific messages. I will never stop following you. I will never give up. I will hunt you until you die of exhaustion. Our sweat literally broadcasts the smell of inevitable death. The holographic display shifted to show brain scans of various alien species exposed to human scent markers. In every case, the regions associated with fear and self-preservation lit up like star charts. The truly remarkable aspect, Dr. Krylov added, is that this response exists in species that evolved on worlds thousands of light years from Earth. The fear of persistence predators appears to be universal among higher-order fauna. Commander, Vextal's throat sacs had remained deflated since the briefing began. How long has the Galactic Council known about this? They haven't, Admiral Zorthik replied grimly. Human integration into galactic society was fast-tracked due to their technological adaptability and diplomatic skills. Full xenobiological analysis was deemed unnecessary for a newly spacefaring species. Marcus felt a chill as the implications became clear. You're saying that humans have been walking around the galaxy, triggering fear responses in other species, and nobody realized it? It explains several diplomatic incidents, the Admiral mused. Trade negotiations where alien representatives became inexplicably agitated, military exercises where allied forces showed reluctance to engage alongside human units, first contact scenarios that went poorly despite human diplomatic teams following established protocols. Dr. Krylov pulled up another dataset. I've cross-referenced historical records with known human diplomatic activities. There's a definite correlation between human presence and what were classified as unexplained anxiety responses in alien populations. The Shadow Maw's image flickered on the screen, the creature still maintaining its death feint, while occasionally opening one eye to check if the human was still nearby. The sight would have been amusing if it weren't so fundamentally disturbing. The question now, Admiral Zorthik stated, is what we do with this information. The Human Exchange Program includes cadets stationed throughout the galaxy. If their mere presence is causing psychological distress to other species. "You're not pulling us out," Marcus said firmly, surprising himself with his own conviction. That would solve nothing and create more problems. Asterisk Commander Vixtal's head tilted in confusion. "Explain your reasoning, Cadet." Marcus gestured toward the screen showing the terrified Shadow Maw. "Look at that creature. It's been contained for 6 months, killed hundreds of beings, destroyed entire colonies. But right now, it's so afraid of me that it's pretending to be dead rather than risk confrontation. Your point?" "My point is that this fear response might be the most effective non-violent deterrent we've ever discovered," Marcus continued. "Instead of using weapons or force fields or containment procedures, all it takes is for a human to walk into the room and aggressive predators become docile." Dr. Krillath's compound eyes widened with realization. Psychological deterrence on a biological level. Rather than fighting or subduing dangerous species, human presence could serve as a natural pacification method. "But the ethical implications," Admiral Zorthik protested. "Using biological fear responses to control other species borders on psychological warfare." Marcus moved toward the observation window, and the Shadow Maw's distress calls immediately intensified. "With respect, Admiral, every species uses whatever evolutionary advantages they have. Crystalline beings like yourself use electromagnetic manipulation. Reptilians like the Commander use chemical communication. Arachnids like the Doctor use multitasking capabilities. Humans use persistence and psychological pressure. The difference," Commander Vextal pointed out, "is that those abilities require conscious activation. Your species appears to be broadcasting terror signals constantly." "Only to predator species," Marcus corrected, "and only to those with genetic memories of persistence hunters. Most herbivores and non-aggressive species don't react to human presence at all." The holographic displays shifted to show psychological profiles of various galactic species. The data supported Marcus's assertion. Only predator species, and those with aggressive territorial instincts, showed fear responses to human. Biochemistry. Dr. Krillath began calculating rapidly on multiple tablets. "If we could develop synthetic versions of human fear pheromones, we could revolutionize containment and control protocols for dangerous species. Nonviolent pacification methods, humane wildlife management, even therapeutic applications for aggressive behavioral disorders." "You want to weaponize human scent?" Marcus asked, unsure whether to be flattered or horrified. "Not weaponize," the scientist clarified. "Utilize. The applications for peaceful purposes are numerous. Imagine being able to calm aggressive predators during medical procedures, or preventing territorial conflicts between species without resorting to physical restraints." Admiral Zorthik's crystalline structure pulsed thoughtfully. "A galactic council will need to be informed, but this could actually strengthen human integration rather than hinder it. A species that can pacify aggressive predators through biological presence alone would be invaluable for peacekeeping operations." Marcus looked at the Shadow Maw, which had somehow managed to wedge itself into a corner while still maintaining its death feint. "I never thought I'd feel sorry for the galaxy's deadliest predator." "The creature isn't suffering," Dr. Krillath assured him. "Brain scans show elevated stress hormones, but no indicators of pain or lasting trauma. It's experiencing the same response its ancestors had when they encountered superior predators: automatic submission to avoid conflict. It's respectful fear, Commander Vextal realized. The creature isn't cowering in terror. It's acknowledging a superior position in the food chain. The observation was profound in its implications. The Shadow Maw wasn't being tormented by Marcus's presence. It was being reminded of its place in the natural order. Somewhere in its genetic memory, the creature recognized humans as the apex of persistence predators, and its response was to show submission rather than challenge something it instinctively knew it couldn't defeat. We'll need to develop new protocols, Admiral Zorthik decided. Human personnel should be briefed on their biological effect on other species, and alien crews should be prepared for human presence. This isn't a problem to be solved. It's an advantage to be managed responsibly. Marcus nodded, feeling a strange mixture of pride and responsibility. I can work with Dr. Quilloth to develop training materials. Help other humans understand what we are to the rest of the galaxy. And what are you, exactly? Commander Vextal asked. Marcus looked at the Shadow Maw one final time, the creature still pressed against the wall in its elaborate charade of death. We're the species that other predators evolved to fear. We're persistence hunters who never give up, never stop coming, and never let our prey rest. We're the nightmare that apex predators have about something higher on the food chain. He turned away from the observation window, and immediately the Shadow Maw's stress calls diminished. But we're also the species that chose to use that power to make friends instead of hunt enemies. That's what makes us human. As the meeting concluded and personnel began to disperse, Dr. Krillith remained behind to continue monitoring the Shadow Maw. The creature cautiously opened one eye, confirmed that the human had left, and slowly began to move away from the wall. But it never fully relaxed. Some instincts, refined over millions of years of evolution, were too deeply embedded to ignore. The scent of persistence predators lingered in the station's recycled air, a constant reminder that somewhere in the facility, the apex hunters were present, and the Shadow Maw, like its ancestors before it, would wait patiently until the threat passed, showing the kind of respect that only one predator could give to another, the respect of recognition, understanding, and acknowledgement of evolutionary supremacy. The galaxy's deadliest beast had learned something that day. It had learned that there were deadlier things in the universe than itself, and that sometimes the wisest response to meeting your superior was to play dead and hope they passed by peacefully in the end. That might have been the most human lesson of all, that true strength wasn't about domination, but about knowing when to use your power and when to show mercy instead.